Hello and welcome everybody to our PwC Experts MiFID II channel. In this first session, we would like to introduce the regulation around inducements to you. Inducements is a very important regulation under MiFID II because of 3 points. The first one is that inside the inducement regulation, it may occur that the investment firm may lose a lot of profits around investment services and ancillary service. The second point is that an investment firm's business model may be influenced by the inducements regulation. And the third point is that there is a combination inside MiFID II between inducement and research, what is very new. So this is the third one that makes it interesting for us to discuss inducement with you during this session. My name is Ulrich Hartmann. I'm leading the EMEA network for MiFID II, and I'm the guy who will introduce you to the first session of inducements.
As mentioned before, inducements are a very important topic within MiFID II. But what are inducements? Is there any definition? In previous times under MiFID II, no clear definition was given. This led to the point that regulators, supervisors, and auditors discussed a lot about whether a specific business transaction was related to inducements or not. Under MiFID II requirements, we now got more information about inducements. So let's have a look at the definition. First of all, we need an investment firm that is giving investment advice or ancillary services to a client as a dependent advisor or via execution only. This investment firm may not pay or receive any monetary or non-monetary services from a third party unless this monetary or non-monetary service is used to enhance the quality of the investment service or ancillary services at the investment firm, and this monetary or non-monetary service is not acting against clients' interest because the service will still be honestly fair and professional. In summary, it becomes clear that inducements regulation should lead to a reduction of conflicts of interest. Whenever we are discussing something around inducements, we should ask ourselves, is there any possible conflict of interest? Due to that, the investment firm may act not in the best interest of the client. Moreover, it is important that 3 parties are involved. The already mentioned investment firm gives, for example, investment advice to a client. That is the second party in this triangle. Mostly, a third party is involved that pays money or non-monetary services to the investment firm or gets something like this from the investment firm. So we have the parties involved, the investment firm, the client, and the third party. The third party could be an investment company, a fund manager, a broker, or something comparable. If the inducement that is paid or received is able to influence the investment firm not to act in the best way regarding the client, then we are talking about inducements. With the next slide, I want to point out what is really new under MiFID II. The regulation differentiates between non-independent and independent advice. This is due to the fact that the regulators are expecting that inducements will always lead to a conflict of interest. Therefore, the investment firm is obliged to pronounce clearly in advance of an investment service or ancillary services whether they will act as an independent or dependent advisor. On the left side of the slide, we can see the regulation for non-independent advice. The regulation is the same for execution-only business. If an investment firm clearly states to the clients in advance that it will act as a non-independent advisor, the investment firm is still allowed to receive or pay inducements. This just needs to be disclosed and, which is important, the investment firm is required to use the inducement to enhance the quality of the investment advice or ancillary service. If we still have in mind that the regulators are convinced that inducements are producing conflict of interest, this sounds a little bit odd. Historically, in the beginning of the MiFID II development process, A real ban of inducements for all business has been planned. But during the consultation process, some territories pushed the European regulators to find less stricter regulation. So it has been caused by political reasons that now, in some special constellations, inducements are still allowed. On the other side, which an investment firm has told to the client that it will act as an independent advisor or a portfolio management business, inducements received are strictly forbidden, if they are not of minor interest. Additionally, then they also need to be disclosed and the minor benefit has to be used for enhancing the quality of the investment advice or ancillary service. For paid inducements, the regulation is pretty much the same, like for non-independent advice. This slide deals with another new clearance provided by MiFID II, research. Research is now a kind of inducement. Reason for this is, in general, that investment firms in the past received research material from a third party for free, and this may also lead to conflict of interests. To give you an example, if an investment firm receives research material from a broker for free and uses the material for its clients, then it could be possible that the investment firm will use the broker for investment transaction preferable without regarding the amount of the fees of the broker. This results in the problem for the client because he will then need to pay too much higher fees for the transaction. Therefore, regulators are trying to achieve that every research material must be paid in the future. But coming back to the slide, first we would like to demonstrate what is it about when the new regulation implements stricter rules on quality enhancements. Under MiFID I, there was no list of examples what quality enhancements could be or should be like. Under MiFID II, there is now a detailed case description what may be a quality enhancement. This was the first time published by the delegated acts. We are expecting that we will see more regulation on this in the future on level 3. So, as guidelines, for example, or in the national transposition. Secondly, there is a proportionality principle. The received inducement must be linked with the quality enhancement. The degree of this linkage is actually not totally clear and will be subject to further discussions and regulations in the future. But it will be definitely result in more forbidden inducements. Many discussions with supervisors and auditors and heavy documentation work result to this. Third, if an investment firm receives inducement on an ongoing basis, there need to be also a continuous quality enhancement. Then, on the right side of the slide, we are talking about research as inducements. In detail, what kind of research is not defined as inducements? The first case applies when the research material is directly paid by the investment firm out of its own accounts. Secondly, if payments for the research material is paid out of a client-specific research payment account. We will demonstrate on the upcoming slide more details about this. But let's start with quality enhancements, and let's try to answer the questions: what are quality enhancements? Investment firms need to be able to select financial instruments for investment advice and ancillary services out of a wide range of suitable products for the client. Additionally, they need to add some financial instruments from third parties in their advice portfolio, and we are not allowed to propose only internally developed investment products. The first questions for someone who has to implement MiFID II will be: what is a wide range? Can we expect that the regulators will serve us with a concrete number, 10, 50, 100? Be sure they will not. This will be decided for every investment firm on their own. The next arising question is if there really needs to be an appropriate number of third-party products. Many big-sized investment firms are actually advising clients only with financial instruments that were manufactured by the investment firm group itself. This could also make sense from a theoretical point of view. If you think about the rationale for this, big players are using only their own products because then they perfectly informed about the products, especially about all risk components. We will experience ongoing discussions about this in the upcoming months. Quality enhancements, which are precisely mentioned on the Level 2 regulations, which means the delegated acts, are, for example, ongoing suitability. Investment firms may offer their clients a special service like informing them ongoing about the suitability of individual products on an ongoing, for example, yearly basis. Other management services could be everything that is going to add value for the client. Here we can think about optimal allocation for the individual client. Ongoing information about the financial instruments in the portfolio of the client, e.g. regarding developing of the risk of individual financial instrument or the whole portfolio. Other mentioned services that could lead to a quality enhancement could be tools for the client information about prices for the financial instrument or a periodic reporting to the client. Now let's have a closer look at investment research. As we see on the left side of the slide, there are no supplementary requirements if the research material is directly paid by the investment firm out of its own resources. If so, the research material is not qualified as an inducement. On the right side, we see the conditions that will lead to no inducement qualification of investment research that is controlled via research payment accounts. We will explain this in detail on the following slides. Therefore, I will only list the 5 conditions in this slide. What needs to be done regarding budget and charges in the research payment account. Secondly, regulations regarding assessment for the research of payment accounts. Third, outsourcing. The investment firm will still be responsible for the operation. Fourth, continuous quality enhancement. And at last, ex ante and ex post disclosure. Let's start with the third condition. For each client, an investment firm needs to define an account and a budget for this client. These budgets need to be calculated only for third-party investment research. It should not be linked to the volume and/or value of the client's transaction. Important is that the volume of the charges for the client should not exceed the budget. And we need an agreement with every single client that defines at what time frequency the client will receive research material and, of course, what is the volume of the charges. Additionally, the agreement should contain regulations how to react if the budget is exceeded. The second condition regarding necessary assessments. Investment firms using research payment accounts need to implement effective internal controls. For example, they have to check whether every client that receives investment material has a research payment account, all charges within the budget, etc. This internal control system should additionally include a clear audit trail. So this is what we in general call first level controls in an internal control system. Please have in mind that compliance departments should also think about second level controls inside the internal control system regarding internal payments accounts. Additionally, this is a clear regulation that investment firms are not allowed to use any information out of the research payments account for internal research. Number 3 is about outsourcing. Normally, it will be possible to use third parties for the administration of research payments accounts, but investment firms will still be responsible to deliver research in time to the client. The fourth condition relates to the quality of the research material. Investment firms need to develop a written policy regarding continuous quality assessments for purchased research. This should include specifications how the research material fits to the client's benefits in connection with the individual portfolio of the client, and that the costs of the research should be as fairly as practical. The last point concerns disclosure requirements. The clients need to be informed upfront about the research payment account budget and the charges he can expect. Exposed. If requested by client and authorities, the investment firm needs to be able to disclose: first, a summary of providers paid from the account, the total amount they were paid over the defined period, goods and services received by the firm, and how the total amount spent from the account compares to the budget set for that period. Now we are leaving the research regulation and coming back to independent versus non-independent advice. In practice, we are expecting that in most jurisdictions, investment firms are heading either to independent or non-independent advice. Additionally, it is important that inducements could be of different significance for different territories and investment firms. For example, in the UK and the Netherlands, there has been implemented a full ban of inducements before MiFID II regulation came into force. Therefore, inducement regulation under MiFID II are less important in these two territories. We also see that the amount of inducements differs from territory to territory and also from firm to investment firm. For example, we know investment firms that are nearly free from inducements in their business models. But we also know a lot of investment firms which are heavily impacted by inducements actually. For those firms, the inducement regulation will be essential. For others, it may less be essential. But in the end, there may also be some investment firms whose business models with both components, independent and non-independent advice. As a client should have clearance whether he will be advised in an independent or non-independent way, the regulators set up some regulations regarding like this. First, they need to inform the client or potential client in good times before the provision of the service as to whether the advice will be independent or not. This can be done once the investment firm starts a business with a client. For example, when a firm or a client are closing an advisor contract. But it can also be done every time just before the individual investment advice will happen. Secondly, it is not enough to disclose the information that the whole business of the investment firm will be independent or not. It needs to be disclosed and cleared with every single client. Thirdly, ensure a clear separation between both types of advice services and advisors. This could be achieved by a personal, functional, organizational separation. Fourth, ensure the client are not confused about the type of advice received and are given the type of advice that is appropriate from them. So, for example, the advisors could tell the client whether this is independent or not. And lastly, do not allow a natural person to provide both independent or non-independent advice. So if you may have seen, there are a lot of new requirements regarding inducements. Research material could be defined as inducements too. As some investment firms do receive a huge volume of inducements, these new regulations are very critical for them as they have the potential to reduce their profits significantly. I think it is even possible that some investment firms will have to change their complete business model due to this new regulation.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, feel free to like, comment or share with colleagues. Do not hesitate to contact us in case of any questions or if you want to learn more.